All right. Well, welcome
Awesome.
everyone. Thanks for coming today and being patient with my scrambling here to get everything going with a lack of internet at the office. Thank you, Larry, for being here. So today we're really lucky to have Larry Doss. He's going to take us through a whole bunch of great information and really focusing a lot on pricing today. And Larry, if you would introduce yourself a little bit, tell folks that are in the southern part of Northern California a little bit about you, and then take it away. That'd be great.
Okay, great. Thank you, Heather. And thank you for everybody that's attending. I am one of Gary and Randy's new partners with Ming Tree in Eureka. So we're all part of the Better Homes and Gardens family and cousins, so to speak. I've been in the business. I'm what they call an SOB, is a son of a broker. So I've been in the business since I was 5, putting together signs, putting stamps on mailers, and cutting ads, and putting together leaflets and whatnot, all that type of stuff since I've been 5 years old. So I've seen a lot of different parts of the business, and I've watched it evolve. We've been pretty much every various aspect of real estate. Either I've been involved or my parents had put me through it somehow. So anyway, one of the things, probably it comes down to one of the most important things, with real estate is pricing correctly, building realistic expectations of our clients, and being the expert. So I've got my timer going. I know that there's a allotment of like an hour and a half. I do not intend to go that long, but I've got a timer going in front of me just to remind me to keep going. So if it looks like I'm stuttering or stopping on a part, you just kick me in gear and make me keep going. So a lot of real estate anecdotes I have are sports related, and this is one that I picked up actually at one of our conferences a few years ago, and it is probably our charge for today, is to stay focused on those daily activities. I believe pricing is one of those daily activities. You know, we should be checking on the market daily. We should be looking at what's sold, what's new on the market, you know, who's making adjustments to prices, who's you know, what's going on, what's selling, what's not selling, that type of thing. So we learn from each experience, and most important thing of all is that we roll up our sleeves and get out there and do real estate. The expectation that we live under, whether we want to or not, is that the public and our potential clients and our existing clients, even our past clients, expect us to be an expert. And whether you feel like you're an expert or not, you are now an expert. So we are growing to be an expert, all of us, daily. And you know, sharpening the axe, so to speak, is what this is all about. This whole session is about. Is I hope that you can walk away with a couple nuggets, if not more, to help you be stronger when you sit down at that kitchen table with the seller and discuss pricing. And the pricing and the expectation of what the client should expect from you is super critical to make the experience both enjoyable for your client, but also for you. It's no fun if it's not fun. So we want to make this fun for you, but we also, to make it fun for you, sometimes it's just as simple as being the person that conveys clarity and the information that your client needs to have a successful real estate experience. So best price obtainable is what I'm after, and that's what we're all after. That's what the seller's after. There's a couple rules that I've found regarding pricing. One is nearly every seller wants the most for their property, right? That's real estate 101, and nearly every buyer wants to buy below that price. So how do we get them to match? How do we get them to see eye to eye and make that deal happen? What we're discussing today is on the side of a seller and pricing properly to the market. But this same discussion is valuable when you are helping a buyer and buying into a market. So it's very much dual purpose, very much dual purpose. Pricing to the market. When we price in the market can go two ways, right? The market's either declining or it's inclining. We've just experienced several years of a great market, a market where a trained monkey could throw a house on the MLS and boom, they've sold a house, right? I mean, that's what people tell us. And so why do I need you? And we had a whole different discussion we had to go with sellers on about why they needed us, because they evidently had trained monkeys that could help them out and go through the process of real estate. And whether it's a increasing or decreasing market, as these graphs show, the correct price, it depends on what the correct price is, right? It depends on, seller's goals. How quickly do you want to sell? If you want to sell quickly and we're in a rising market, you want to be close to that 30-day range. But guess what? It's the same thing on a declining market too. If you want to sell and not mess around, you're going to make more, you're going to get more value for the home you sell the quicker you sell it. And some of the statistics are well, there's a lot of statistics about it. NAR is a great place for a library of those statistics. And they basically, over the years, have said the same thing, that the quicker the home can sell, the more money the seller puts in their pocket. Simple as that. So even when we're looking at the reverse market that we've had on an increase, that's generally the case because of time on market, stale, a lot of other reasons and a lot of other subjects. All right, so we've talked a little bit here about market conditions, some of the basics on strategy, and let's get into sitting down at the table, meeting our seller, and going through the process. So one of the things to be thinking about, and these are the things that I think about when I'm in the truck heading over to see the house for the first time, and I'm going to meet the seller, whether I know the seller previously or it's the first time to meet the seller in person. I'm on my way to go see the property and do a walkthrough and learn about the property. It's this whole process we're talking about today. It's kind of funny, we're going to have one fairly quick meeting, whether it's an hour or two even. That's pretty quick compared to the amount of value and investment that we're going to look at to all of a sudden become an expert and put the proper price, market value to this property that we're going to go see for the first time. So we're going to go meet a property as well as we're going to go meet hopefully the future clients. So these are simple questions to anticipate and to have an answer for ahead of time. Be prepared before you get to that home. And so I always run through, as I'm driving to the appointment, these questions. The seller's going to think, geez, is this the right time to sell, or should I hold off, wait till after the holidays? Okay, so what's my answer for that? Have your answer for that. I'm not going to go deep into all of these of why, but there's plenty of information out there of why this time of year is great to be a seller. There's generally less competition for the sellers. There's generally more motivated buyers because they don't want to mess around. They just want to find the place that they want and they want to buy it and get on with it. And am I selling at the right price? That's probably the most popular question that a potential seller is going to have. You're going to come in with all the data and provide clarity. Clarity makes people move. If someone is not someone, meaning, again, I'm terrible about speaking like this. If a seller is not feeling like they have clarity, like they have enough information or that they understand the information, that they can process it, then there's not going to be clarity. So we get to that clarity point and the seller's going to move. So you want to anticipate these questions and concerns. They may be asked of you and they may not be asked of you, but these are probably the most popular. Know the process. When I sell my home, I don't want to be homeless. How's that going to work? Well, depending on where the market is at the time you sell the home, there's a process to it. Your seller's going to be moving out of the area. Maybe they're moving across town. Different logistics to that. You've done that before. If you haven't done that before, find someone that has done that before in your office and talk through how did that work? What are some ideas? Because the solution I tell you today is not going to be the same solution that works for a seller tomorrow. We have to have multiple solutions in our toolkit. And how can I show that I'm the right agent to look out for the seller's best interest? And that's really what you're after too. There is a key is that you want to build the trust. You want to build that relationship very quickly. And you want them to know you, like you, and trust you because they'll do business with you. So how can I show that how can I demonstrate that I'm the right agent for you, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller? One of the things that's gonna happen when I show up is I'm gonna have a notebook with me and I'm gonna be taking notes. And I'll tell you, there's probably 75% of your competition will go look at a house and they will not take a note. They will not write anything down. When you take a notebook and you start writing notes about the tour the seller gives you of the house to find out about what they have, take me on a tour of your home, show me what you have, and start writing notes. It might be that, okay, bedroom 1 has carpet freshly painted. Maybe bedroom 2 has a wood floor. Maybe it's got some dings in the walls. It might need some freshening up. Maybe bedroom 3 has a crack in a window, discoloration in the ceiling. Some of this stuff you're going to reuse and relook through the whole process. But for your first visit, you're making some quick notes for yourself. By you demonstrating that you care about understanding the home, you're demonstrating to that seller that you're taking the time to write notes and do a good job for them. That answers that question to the seller without you having to brag about yourself verbally. You're bragging about yourself by just pulling out a notebook, taking notes about that property. Then there's always questions about tax obligations. Be prepared to answer for our level of answers, and then always referring, of course, back to their tax professional to confirm or get deeper into those questions, whether it's a 1031 or it's some knowledge about the personal residence and the basis and their tax obligation that is forgiven based on being single or married. So those kind of things you always want to refer back to their tax consultant. But as long as you know those answers though too, I mean, I don't want to hire somebody to sell my rental property if you don't have a concept of what I'm in for taxes. You can't represent me well. So just demonstrate that you have that knowledge. And then we want to find out, if nothing else, that last one is a question that we want to ask, or we want to find out through the process, is why does this seller want to sell? Let's find out that motivation, find out the why. Because if we find out the why, that helps us to answer all of the questions towards their focus, the seller's focus. Make sense? I want to introduce you to Sally. Sally was a pig that lived on our farm. Sally was an awesome prospector. Now, believe it or not, when we go out and meet the house and meet the seller, we're out there prospecting. Sally was a very motivated prospector. We live about probably equivalent to a couple city blocks away from the Lost Coast Brewery, and they make a beer called Great White. And when on brewing days, mash days, that smell gets out there, and pigs have very sensitive noses. And Sally got out of her pen one day, got out of the barnyard and walked all the way down for a big 1,000-pound pig. That's a long walk. Walked to the brewery and did what I don't do anymore, but I've done before, is door knocked. And they came out to say hi to Sally, and gave her some mash, and rubbed her belly, and she just was very personable. And then they went on a walk with her to take her back to the barnyard. Sally got what she wanted that day, just going and asking the questions. And sometimes that's all we have to do, is just ask the questions, and the sellers will tell us everything. So, why do you want to sell? When do you want to sell? What's the perfect sale in your mind? What does that perfect sale scenario look like? So every time I see this picture, and for a lot of different reasons, she reminds me of prospecting, because she was not afraid to knock on doors. All right, jumping into it. So we go back to our notebook. These are some notes these are actual notes from properties that I've gone out to. And so what I always do is I always put a date on the top, the address, who my contact is, or who the person I'm talking to there, because I guess over the years, sometimes my memory will fail just instantly and I'll forget a name. So I help myself with that. What I do, here's my tip for you today too on taking notes. I have a file on my computer that I call transactions. And then I have some sub files on that transaction file. In that sub file, I have a pending file, I have an active file, I have a sold file. And those are my notes about different properties. All the files inside of all of them are labeled the address, the street address. So one of the other files that's in my transaction file is called a CMA file. And every single property that I go and look at, and I go take notes, I'll take a couple photos, I'll get support material. I might even have comps from that time. And I may even scan a copy of the CMA. It will all go into the 220 Hillsdale file, or the 323 Willow Street file. All of my notes, all my photos, all of the comps, a copy of the CMA, it'll all go in there. Why? Because these people might just be looking for information right now, might be looking for a value, and they may not call me back, may not want to do anything, might decide, hey, I want to hold off, and they don't go ahead and list the property, but they just sit and wait. They may call me a year from now, 2 years from now. I've gone back and accessed my notes, my CMA file back 5 years, because I was asked out, they kept my card, they kept my CMA, and they finally said, we're finally ready. So I didn't have to start from zero. I went and found that file. I've got all my notes, and all I have to do is update it, which is a lot easier than going and looking new. So I can, go back through the home, and I can ask Ron there at 323 Willow. So gosh, this master bedroom looks great. Now, last time I was here, it had oak floors, and you've got carpet now. So tell me about that. What did you do? And geez, talk about impressing people. Is you remember my house? You remember the floor in the master bedroom? Oh my gosh. So there's another way that you're also building trust, showing people that you care. You're asking questions. And the goal here on taking the notes when we're going through a tour of the home, and by the way, that's 90% of what happens, is you meet Mr. and Mrs. Seller, or Mr. Seller or Miss Seller at the door. We chat a little bit, get to know each other a little bit. Maybe we may have sat down, or we may not have. And so what do you need to know first, Larry? Well, why don't you take me a tour with a tour on your home? So two things are going on there. One is sellers love to just show you what they have. Great, you're building rapport with them. Two is you're hearing what's important to that seller. Sometimes if you're brand new in the market, in the real estate business, you might not have much experience having to write and rewrite property ads. But a lot of property ads get get they get overseen and sometimes edited, but overseen and evaluated by our sellers. And maybe they don't like how you describe the property, or maybe they're not satisfied with the ads you write because you left out the most important part. Well, if I go on a tour with the seller and they show me that property, I know what's big and important to that seller. I know that they're very proud of the tile in the kitchen, or I know they're very proud of the newly tiled shower and marble floors, whatnot, whatever it is, the water fountain in the rose garden, or whatever it might be. They're telling me what's important to them. So now, as we're going into this new market, homes are going to be on the market for a little bit longer period of time. And we're going to have to refresh these ads that we have out there. And if we're, most of the criticism that I see from the broker standpoint is that agents didn't get it, or didn't get the right point. They're not pushing the right points. The right points are, for a seller, are the points they think are the right points. You're going to know what those right points are when you go take notes and walk through the property. So when you do that, you're gonna help yourself by anticipating the important issues with the seller. Make sure that you accentuate those issues, those not issues, those attributes out to potential buyers. Make sure we get good photos of these. You're going to let your marketing person, your photographer know. Make sure we get lots of photos of this. Whatever those issues are, we cover them and we satisfy the seller. That's a box that they check off, and they know, gosh, my agent is so great. They love that rose garden as much as I do, and boy, they say great things about it. Boy, they had great photos about it. Boy, they really highlight it in the ads. I love that. Now, buyers are going to say maybe they don't like roses, but they're going to say, hey, this is kind of a cool space. And then if you're changing your ads around often, and people are stalking the property, so to speak, buyers are stalking the property to maybe shop it. They're seeing different features about this property, and it's working both ways. So there's another little tip of keeping a seller satisfied. So you go through this property, get a tour from the seller. You're writing down the notes as you go. You're going to need this both for ad writing purposes and for putting it into MLS. And so some people, some agents I see take the MLS input sheet, they print it out and they use it as their guideline, as their template. Some people have made their own template. I just use a blank piece of paper and run with it. So what I'll also have on my notes, and on these two notes, I don't think I scanned the back sides of them, but I'll also make a drawing of the house, a really, really rough floor plan of the house. And then I will measure so I get the living space square footage, and we'll take it on to the next step. So the next step to this is going to be putting together the presentation. I've got my notes together from the initial visit. I've found out what the seller's goals are with the sale of this property, and I'm going to do some research now. I'm going to look at search for comps. I'm going to pick up the local tax assessor's information, the tax assessor's map, or they call it the APN map, parcel map. I'm going to go look at some other sites and see how they rate this home, and what kind of values the automatic value systems have put on this property, and we'll start compiling. So the research part now that we're back at the office, we're looking for comparables. And then the other places, there's lots of places to look, but these are just some ideas, and certainly don't want to see you limit to my list. There's more ideas and more possibilities in all areas, but you want to look through your MLS, of course, first. Look for your solds, look for your pendings, look for your actives. Find the closest ones geographically, find the closest to the type of home, and look for all, the three categories: sold, pending, and active. You might even, as the market changes now to what I would call a little bit slower market, you might even look at your expireds and canceleds, and you want to know if there's a high rate of those. You're just going to want to know that as you go through this process. And the market may change enough in some areas to where the expireds and canceleds become more of a factor in pricing than the solds, pendings, and actives. The solds are going to, of course, have the highest weight because you're going to know the details of the sold price, as well as any special concessions that were made. And then pendings and actives kind of fall in that same category. Pendings, of course, we've got a buyer that is in escrow with this seller, and it's, you know, it's in the process. We don't know what the details are yet, so it's really no better than an active, but we're in the process. When you've searched MLS, the next one to look at and not forget is NAR RPR. We all are, as realtors, have that site as a resource. Look that property up, see what kind of value it puts on it, see what other kind of details it has about that property. If you can, try to find any private sales. That will help you in discussions of the neighborhood myths of, well, I heard that house over there across the street sold, and it sold for, golly, $1 million. And, you know, I know you're saying that my home's worth 150, but boy, that one sold for $1 million, and you might be able to find the details and realize that there might be a couple extra zeros on that myth. Then you also look at your Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, all of those real estate sites that throw values out there and advertise properties available for sale. Zillow is a great one to use because at least in Humboldt County, several years ago now, Zillow came to one of our office meetings, and one of the reps did, and Humboldt County is not a cookie cutter type of a county. We don't have vast neighborhoods of similar floor plan homes. We don't have, or similar ages, that type of thing. It's very piecemeal. So Zillow has a tough time with our area, as they do with most rural areas. So Zillow, the Zillow rep said, boy, we're just excited if we're about 30% correct. So Zillow can be your friend in this stage because they might be really, really off the mark, and you can show the seller how off the mark they are, which can alleviate pressure as you go through the process of managing this listing for that seller. Any other sources, like I said, Realtor.com, Trulia, Homes, there's hundreds of them, of course, and it's good to get those perspectives. So let's find those perspectives, find out what those sites think of the value of our subject property, and compile this list. We're looking for all of the same areas. You've all done comparable searches, and so I don't want to go through all the detail of piece by piece, but you can grab an experienced agent in your office if you have not done the comparable searches, and see what some of the strategy is in your particular neighborhood.
Hey, Larry, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
You mentioned finding private sales, and I think that is brilliant. What sources do you use for that, other than sold off MLS that's on the MLS? Other than that, where else can we find that
find your favorite escrow officer, and if you have to, you might have to get them cookies or a bottle of wine every so often. But and that might have to be a phone call or face to face, and say, hey, I'm looking for this. Have you seen any private sales come through? And really have a couple go-to escrow officers. Develop that relationship with some escrow officers so that you have that access into those private sales. The other way that you can check is you can go to the the recorder's office. And you can do some legwork yourself at the recorder's office, and recorder's offices will have a going list of recent recordings. Now, it may not, it may only say the APN number, but some of the one here in Eureka for Humboldt County does have APN number and address. And then you can look on that list and see what it's sold for. It's not going to have a lot of detail. So that's why the escrow officer is better, because if you get a good relationship with an escrow officer and, oh yeah, they sold it for X, but then maybe we find out what a concession was. And that you don't always see that when you go to the recorder's office. But those are the two different places that you can find it. It's also, at least with our county, it takes a long time for the different departments to talk. So like the assessor's office isn't going to get all the information from the recorder's office. And there's each county is a little bit different, but there's a worksheet in our county that the buyer is supposed to complete. And it's usually in their escrow documents, and it gets run right through. And that tells us a little bit of detail, but that goes to the assessor's office. And for us, we're probably 6-8 months before that information ever comes out public, if we're lucky. Those are the two areas that you're going to get those private sale information. And you might just luck out and know some people too. So, you might have those ties where you might know different players that might have that information as well. This is information that we would get from the tax assessor's office. So on the far left is the detail page, the assessor's detail page. And every county has different software, so it's going to look a little bit different. But it should tell us what the last sales price or transfer price was. It'll give us some dates. That'll help us needle around too to see if we need to get more information. Of course, we've got the assessor's parcel map, and then here's we have this form that in Humboldt County we have to fill out. Either if you have a typewriter, type it out, they prefer, or put it into a form generator. But a lot of times it's just like this. We just handwrite them, and then we have to fax them over to the recorder's office. So they'll send us back the information. They'll fill out this form for us and tell us what they know about the property from the assessor's perspective. It's not always correct, and it's some agents use this information to throw into MLS, and you don't want to do that. If you do use somebody else's numbers, you want to cite the source for liability purposes. But this is some of your research, and it's going to get you a little bit further down the line. What I always do when I present, put together my CMA also, is I'll take this detail page and I'll take the parcel map, and I'll make sure that those are some of the first pages when I get into the presentation, that the seller sees that I've pulled these from other sources. Here's again just some of my sources, or some of the things again to anticipate. Sellers can say, well, gosh, Zillow says my property is worth $1 million and you're thinking it's worth 500. So hey, anticipate that discussion. Realtor.com, same thing, can say, hey, we think this property is worth this and you think it's not. Then of course we always need to be able to address the neighborhood myths. Neighbor down the street said that the third house past them on the right, sold for tons and tons, and then they threw in gold bars and it was amazing. And so you got to be ready to figure out what those real numbers are with those, and counter those myths. And then of course, everybody's got their friend, the real estate expert, the REE. It's like, wow, they can just blow you out of the water. And then some of these other sites that will get you to values. So here's an example of a very pretty floor plan with inside dimensions. And just as I wanted to bring this one up, just because this shows, this is a floor plan generated by, it's not Matterport. I think it's one of the other softwares that our marketing uses. And it'll generate square footage, but it's not going to generate total square footage because it's measuring from the inside out and not the outside around. So legal square footage, we want to follow what an appraiser will do. You know, all of our research is going to be tested by an appraiser. So we want to measure the heated living square footage of the property. CAR's attorneys are going to tell you, don't measure the property, don't measure the property. We can't give a value without knowing the measurement. It's just flat out. If we don't know what the measurements are and we don't do it ourselves, then we're relying on third parties to give us measurements. If we relied on this information and only this information that's right here, we're going to be off by, on this size of a square foot home, we could be off by 200 square feet. 200 square feet times $500 a square foot. Who's gonna make up that difference? They're gonna be looking at the agent. So, you know, to get really good value, you wanna run and do I just do a simple hand-drawn sketch of the home real quick and run my tape. And I haven't gotten one yet, but I've seen these cool little laser measuring pieces, and in about, you know, a tenth of the time, instead of a measuring tape, you can get a measurement of an outside of the property. And in this situation, like when we're looking at a house like this, I would measure the whole thing. I would measure what the size of the patio is for my own information. I would measure the size of the garage, and I would want all those measurements because I want to be the one that's the expert of this property to explain it to other buyers and to other agents. So I want to know what this is. I want to run the information because I want to know what my calculations are. You may or may not be comfortable throwing out your own measurements, but if you cite the source, we have a disclosure at CAR that handles it. You can also cite the previous sources that you pick up, but you just want to measure the property. That's what we sell. We sell square footage of a house. So if we don't measure it, then we're going to be lacking that integral little piece. So now we've got measurements. Now we've got our notes. Here's our comps. We're breaking down the comps to show the details of the sales. We have the actives and we've got the pendings. So we take that information. Our MLS in Humboldt County does break down, see the sold price per square foot down there, the $481.81 per square foot. That's super. It was listed for less, but look, it's sold for more. So what we're doing is we're getting all of our raw information together, and now we're going to start compiling it. And some other things too that I use in coming up with value, but I also use in presentation are charts like this. So this is dated, but we run data all the way back to the 1980s, and this graph both these graphs show median, average, and then the number of units that were sold. So I'm gonna include these graphs in my CMA, and it's gonna show, you know, market activity and know how to read and tell, and you know, let your client know what these graphs mean. So, you know, the year to date average sales price of in this example at 484,690, and then the most current month of this chart when it ran was 459,997. So, you know, year to date was higher than this last month on the charts activity. You know, not that 1 month shows us a trend, not that 2 months shows us a trend, but you know, there's the up and down in the market. You can kind of read in that, you know, the market is not going to be always straight up. or it's not going to always be straight down. There's going to be fluctuations in performance in the market. So I've got that information. I do have a trending document chart to show where different parts of the county are, depending on where my listing or subject property is. And then also absorption rate. Absorption rate is going to be good in the discussion because, you know, we're competing. We're bringing property on the market that's going to compete with X amount of other properties. So if we know that in this particular zone, 4 properties sell a month, there's already 4 listed, and I'm going to bring a 5th one on, then we might be fighting and jockeying for position, which means we might need to sharpen up our listed price and sharpen up our presentation to be in that hopper, to be part of the next go round of new pendings in that particular segment of the geographic county. So all of our details here that we're finding, all the comps, are we adjusting them? Yes, I make notes on all of the comps for adjustments, and I'm not the person to say, okay, you need to adjust X for a bathroom, or you need to adjust X for, a large yard. It's different area by area. Obviously, you know what those differences are. That's why you're in an office. This is good water cooler talk, or find an agent that is in the office that sold a property in that similar area, or had a property, or it has a property, has information, and kick it around. It's good for them, it's good for you, and it can help you with adjustments, and you kind of get that feel of where a value of a bathroom, so to speak, is, or a remodeled house versus not remodeled house, or remodeled kitchen, updated kitchen versus not updated kitchen. But I'm going to take some adjustments when I go into taking all of these and total things up. I'm going to adjust for location. I'm going to adjust for size, and I'm going to adjust for parcel size, also size of a house and parcel size. And then if there's any extra amenities, I may do that. Maybe my subject property might need a roof. Maybe the comps that I found don't. So there's those kind of adjustments that we need to make. And then take that and throw it in our black cauldron and see what happens. So this is the pretty version of the cauldron. What we're after here, and here's 2 different properties to show examples, different ways that I'm reporting here. So one is the county assessors. What I'm showing is multiple perspectives of value. The reason I want to show multiple perspectives of value is because the seller needs to start to understand that there's not just one value out there for their property. And that's going to help you when it comes to negotiating, to make sure that they're clear and have clarity on the fact that different people are going to look at different values. Of course, the main value that comes to mind is, what's a buyer willing to buy this property for? And that's going to tell us what the true value is when we have an offer that gets accepted in meeting of the minds. That's going to tell us what its value was. And this is going to show the seller that it's not a simple A or B choice. There's a lot to it. So starting at the top, I use the county assessor's valuation. County's assessor's valuation is always going to be low unless we're in a declining market, and then it's going to have a different discussion. But we're not really in that type of a market yet, so it's not something to worry about. But that is one time when the market is falling on a cycle. You may have to show adjustments on the assessor's valuation. But in this case, we're looking at properties that are worth much more than the county assessor valuation. That shows a perspective. Okay. We have on both of these properties, we have previous values. So market value on that 275 9th Street. What I'd like to do on that on market value with appreciation or depreciation, depending on where we're at, is that works me back to those graphs that I showed you just a few minutes ago. Where's the market now compared to when we bought it? Well, in this case, this property on 275 9th Street, it was listed by me previously, and the owner passed away. So this new CMA was for the kids, and we had an offer in hand for 700,000, whatever the time frame was behind, and I'm just showing them that the market has changed since that time, and it was worth 811 when we did this CMA. Then there was, and I'm noting below that this was a cash offer at that time. This I need to maybe back up a second here too and explain that this sheet is just I start with a template that is blank, and then I fill it in. I add categories or delete categories depending on the property. So the 275 9th is a rental property with multiple units, and the 1578 Wood Street is a straight residential property. Depending on the seller, the type of personality the seller is, and depending on some of their goals, is going to kind of steer me a little bit on how I'm relaying values. So I'm entering that value number 2 and 3, the 811 700 on 9th Street, because I had experience with that. Then I used based on the rents, how an income approach would be. I wouldn't use that on a residential property because we're not dealing with it as a rental. So see, I'm using the same template. I'm just changing it based on the property and what the needs are for that particular property. One of the numbers that the seller always likes is if this home was new today, what would this house be worth? And brand new, no depreciation, just brand new. So I take their square footage, and I talk to contractors, clients, or friends, and I know where the square footage ranges are for brand new per them, and I'll lay that in there. Sellers always like to see, wow, you think that property is worth $1.1 million, and it doesn't hurt you to put high and low values in there because it's just a different perspective. And we want to show all the perspectives, remember, because that gives clarity. The market change. Market change is a percentage that I run against year-to-dates, or actually in this case, year-to-date's the best way to do it. So how much has the market changed in the last 11 months if we go year-to-date, or in the last year, how much has the market changed, or what has the market done in this last quarter? That'll give me a percentage, and I'll just label in the last 90 days it's gone up this much, in the last 12 months it's gone up this much, and then use that as a number to know where the market's going. If you can put a value on it and you can pick up a value from whatever that time frame is, great. And if not, it's a percentage, and it's encouraging also, even though it's not a value. It's the value is that, okay, a seller's saying, oh, the market's gone up 20% at that time. That's great. Or in the other case, market's gone up 5.19%. Okay, well, that's at least it's going positive. Then this next section is a section that's in all of my analysis. Is we're breaking down the active, pending, and solds. So I always explain that this is the competition. Take the bad guy off yourself and you put it on the competition. We're competing against these properties, so we want to see how we compete against the actives, how we looked against the ones that are in escrow, and how we looked against the ones that have recently sold. In this case, the two different sheets, I've broken it down on the actives, the raw price ranges. So what that says is 695 was the lowest active comparable, and the highest was 989, and there were 3 actives. When I put my CMA together before I bind it, I'm going to print all of these comparables. I'm going to write down on those comparables all the different adjustments that I've made, and I'm going to label them or highlight them as actives, pending, and sold. So they're going to see in the CMA, before they get to this page, they're going to see those comparables, and they'll be able to go back to look at those comparables and see, oh yeah, okay, there was 3 of them they were ranging from 695 to 989. And then on those same comparable sheets, I'm going to make adjustments. Just like we talked about earlier, I will adjust for condition, location, size, and anything else that's unusual or special to it. And then I've broken it down to square footage. So the active range of 106 to 145 I've got here on that 9th Street property, and then the average square footage price is worked out at 125. That gives us a running value of 881. Did the same process with the pendings, although I only had at that time 1 pending. You can see on the other one on Wood Street that there were multiple pendings too, and then there was 6 solds. So that's the other thing, is that every property, every time you do this, it's going to look a little bit different. Did the same thing again for the solds for both properties. And I did not, on the Wood Street, I left off the price per square foot valuation because they threw kind of a monkey wrench at me when I went over there. I wasn't able to measure it. So I had to look at it real closely. And what I did is I counted sheets of siding, knowing that they're T111s, and they're 4 feet wide. So I had to estimate, and I didn't want to put that in writing because I didn't want to get hung on square footage that I didn't have a tape on it. So I did go back and measure it, and my estimate of square footage was actually, I had estimated it at 1,250 square feet, and by just counting the plywood and eyeballing it, it turned out to be 1,265 feet. So I was within 15 feet. I felt pretty good about that for a guess for myself. So here we've got the 3 different areas, the actives, pendings, and solds. We've broken out what those are looking at, and then I've got 2 different sellers here that are looking for 2 different personalities, and they're looking for different types of reports. The N Street or 9th Street property, with adjustments or with doing these 2 things, they had really bad siding issues and window issues. There's your price, the 881. I had to make it feel good somewhere there. But without it, it's probably going to be about 735. The projected sales price, and this is where you can give them a range. I'm totally cool with giving sellers ranges, but I also want to give them a number, because if you give somebody a range like that, 725 to even 755, 750, where's the seller going to pick? What number are they going to pick? Well, they're always going to pick the high number. So that's why I want to zero that down as close to a number that I can. In some cases, though, a zone is probably the best you can do, and you're just going to have that discussion with the seller that there's some variables here, and you're going to have to do some things to get out of those variables. The Wood Street document, I got it down to where it was 10,000 difference, and it made it much easier for the seller to make a decision. But I also had to give them a list of things that needed to be done, and that's pretty real. So without a whole lot of fanfare, we went through this, and we're ready to once I've typed this in, we're ready to produce a CMA. And what I would say is your CMA is going to look like your style. This is just the pricing. The CMA options, you have tons of options, going to Haley, Danielle up here. You've got your own CMA with BH&G that's formatted, ready to roll. What I have done is I've just downloaded the CMA from BH&G, so it is labeled appropriately, and then I add pages, because I always, if there's times when I can only send a digital version of one of these out, and that's fine, but I always like to print one, bind it, and hand deliver it to the seller, because I'd like to go through this, and I can go through this lightly with the seller, and let them digest all of the details, and we're either listing it right there at that moment, or I'm going to come back and answer questions and go from there. So the different things that you're gonna see, well, I guess what you would do is look at the 3 different versions there, and what looks best. I love to compete against the agents that do what the 2 bottom photos show, is they just staple the pages together and hand it over. Well, that's better than loose. Loose to me is really sloppy. And then there's a 4th version that I didn't even want to take a picture of, but there's agents that will just print some comps up and lay them out on the table, and that's their presentation. And oh my gosh, you've got a Ferrari sitting in the garage, guys, and you got to use that Ferrari as far as tools go. You don't want to just make it about the comps. You want to show that it takes someone like yourself to look at not just the comps, but what the market performance is doing, what buyer expectation is, and give them a analysis of everything. Show them what you're worth there, and I'll guarantee you that there aren't too many other agents that will sit down and break down numbers for sellers like that. That's all done by hand. I'm sure it could be automated, but you could take the CMA from Moxie, you could take your own information, lay in a sheet like this, and it's over the top. That's information overload. So we provided clarity by the time we get to putting our presentation together. We should have lots and lots of clarity for the seller. This is going to build a lot of trust, and they should have some pretty focused questions for you, for clarification purposes further, or just additional questions that come up. Do you guys have any questions?
See, you guys have questions, if you want to either raise your hand or you can just unmute. I did mute a couple people, so if you can't unmute, let me know and I can unmute you. Well, while people are thinking, Larry, I do have one question. Often when when I'm choosing some comps, I'll see 1 or 2 possibly that look like they're a really good fit, yet they price wise, they're kind of outliers, right? They're either like, why is this? And what are some ways that you address that?
That's a great one to show when I have some outliers or ones that aren't performing. Let me show you, let's see. Let me show you one of the early graphs we did here. So if you took a graph that looked like this and you plotted where the say that yellow line is your value line for your subject property, ignore what's on that graph right now. I'm just showing you the graph. So if you took, okay, this is what the value is for your property here, say, and then you plotted where the competition was on a graph, that would be a great visual to add to this, is plot, and then that will show the seller where those outliers are. It's a visual that doesn't make you a bad guy, but it helps them to explain, oh, I see, they're way out in left field. As another sports analogy, I before the graph, I've told sellers they are a backboard property. Well, what do you mean by backboard property, Larry? If I'm playing basketball, I need a backboard, and I need that property to show my buyer, because the ball is going to come back through the net at this other property, which is yours because it's priced right. So those outliers are great to have out there, but explain that. You got to explain that to the sellers that property is going to help sell your property. We want them to stay overpriced because it's going to make your property look much more valuable. Great.
Thank you. Yeah. I also going back to when you were talking about, knowing the, I don't remember how you put it, but knowing the neighborhood myths.
Oh yeah.
A seller will often be like, oh, the house two doors down sold for 200,000 higher than that. But so I love what you just said. Something I also do is I will call the agent and try to find out if they can reveal to me why it was an outlier. Oh yeah, the roof was shot and so we took 50,000 off the price, or different things like that. So
absolutely, those are great ones, and that brings up that point that I tried to make with the escrow officer, having an escrow officer too to go for information. If you have that relationship with other agents, we're not supposed to reveal an accepted price on a pending property as a listing agent. However, sometimes you might be able to get really close to that number, if not whispered in your ear, if you have that relationship. So having that, if you help out sometimes, and they might help you out too, but you got to be really careful about that, because that's going over lines right there that are
Right. Well, it's I'll definitely go there when once it's closed, and ask for those details. And but even when it's pending, often you can find out, oh, did you get multiple offers? Did it come in quickly? Did the offers come in quickly? Those sort of things that can help here clarify as well.
Asks. Yes, yep. And that's the kind of stuff that I mean that you can find out if you have that relationship with those other agents, for sure.
Great. All right, you guys, somebody's got to have some questions. Lots of good info here. Are you just all taking it in?
Okay, so a thing that I started doing when we joined with you all is those Better Homes and Gardens magazines are the bomb and they are very inexpensive. So these sellers, I go out to a property and I'm going to probably spend an hour and a half putting together an analysis. And so I don't want them gone. I don't want them to forget about me. They get put on that subscription list, and they get a magazine, because I don't, even if they list with somebody else, I want that magazine to be on the coffee table when other agents are going through. It just makes you look good, and kind of, whether you get the listing or not, it's making you and the company look good. And I got to share with you, this is the new magazine that just came out I guess it's for November. with Dolly Parton, but like they have BH&G has a customized label that you can get if you've ordered, I think it's 20 magazines, and you don't have to order them all at one time. So check them out and get that customized label. That is really cool. And guaranteed, you know, if someone's not going to be selling that property that you go out to see right away, if they're getting a magazine in the meantime, you are high on their list.
Yeah, you won't be easily forgotten.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Great. Very nice. Yeah, anytime you order the magazines, you can get a label, but like you said, if you do 20 or more, then they'll do a customized one, and you can have like it's great photo, and you can have the layout how you want. So it really, those really stand out.
Yep. Very cool.
Cool. Well, I don't see any hands. I am so surprised. Does anybody have a question that I can't see your hand? And oh, there's a few things in chat. Let's see. One person said, I've sent magazines out to future listing prospects to keep me top of mind. Awesome. Good job, Amy. I got my magazine too. Oh, it sounds like maybe Larry, you sent someone one.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. Patty Markin said she has a hard time with figuring out the amounts for adjustments. I guess I know you talked about talking to other agents. That's a great idea. Any other suggestions for that?
Well, there's, you know, I would befriend some contractors and find out, because it's especially, you know, geographically and the type of home is kind of get a feel for, hey, what's a low range cost for a, you know, finish cost, what's a mid range, what's a high range, and you know they're going to change, but you can get a price per square foot from a contractor pretty easy. You know, like what's a house with, you know, vinyl finish versus tile or granite, or, you know, that kind of thing. And get a feel, try to see if they'll give you price per square foot information. And then generally that doesn't include, that price per square foot is usually construction costs. Remember, it doesn't include the land. So that's something to keep in mind when people throw out price per square foot. In our world, we include the land, but not always in like contractors and others, insurance, that type of thing, don't usually include the land.
Okay,
Insurance
great.
agent is another good source too. That is a good source to find for values of bathrooms and kitchens and stuff like that.
Who was that you just said?
Insurance agents.
Oh, insurance agents.
Yep.
Okay,
And
great.
there's NAR has a report that comes out every year that talks about national numbers, and I think the National Association of Home Builders has a public report also that you can pull values from. And just know that you have to make adjustments for California. Sometimes they have it broken down by state, sometimes they don't. And then, you know, just as Northern California can sometimes be a little more expensive. So it ranges.
Yeah, great. Thanks. I think maybe this made me think of a potential upcoming class. Maybe I'll see if I can find a local appraiser that would come out and talk to us about how, you know, specifics on values for adjustments.
Right.
All right. Okay, looks like we don't have any questions. We've got some background noise. Looks like we're all good. And I don't think I've got any other things in the chat. So thank you so much, Larry. I really appreciate it.
Good to see you all.
Lots of good information. So thank you for making the time. And everyone, this is recorded, so it will be up on YouTube in the next day or so. Again, thank you everyone for your patience.
Great.
And yeah.
Thank you, Heather.
Later. Yeah, thanks, Larry.
Let me know if any of you have questions. Happy to help.
All right. Oh, hey, Larry, would you be willing to share that template? Your blank template?
Yep.
Okay, if you'll send that.
Okay?
Okay, and then we'll put it up in the resources. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. Okay.
All right. Bye.